My fellow Africans, if we want to experience a real change in our society, the way we reason must change. We are consumption inclined. We don't think about producing anything. Most of us who are graduates hunting for a job, the first thing in their mind after getting a job is to get a car, is to buy shoes, buy expensive things. And most time we buy those things to impress others. We don't think properly. Do you think you can work all your years and become relevant? You want to work maybe as an accountant, then that's all you are living for in your life. That's the difference between us and the West. Most of people you see working in corporates and many places are investors in other companies. They invest. We must be investment conscious. How many companies in Africa can survive over the time? Most of the companies are just low-scale, medium companies without a proper guide, without a proper blueprint for such a company to grow, expand, and survive over the year. I mean, even down to the next generation. We don't have such things. Our thinking must be affected positively. We must change the way we do things. Look at it now. Most of the expensive watches, expensive shoes, clothing, Versace, Gucci, and all that. I want you to know that Africa is one of the greatest consumers of those products. They ask yourself, how many products produced in Africa are being consumed in Europe? How many of them are consumed in the US, in the American lands, and not on South America? How many of them are being consumed in Asia? Actually, we are producing nothing. We are not even thinking about these things. We work, we take the money and put it in the hands of the West or the Asians. We must begin to think on what to do that will affect our society economically, positively. This is something we must do. It's a tax on all of us. It's a tax on all of us. And now look at Africa. We have a lot of youths consuming liquor. Some are working class, some are not. Most of those liquor companies in Africa here, how many of us have shares in those companies? But we look at the money you are earning, most of them goes on alcohol and other things. Clothing, shoes, and all that. So we live to consume. We are not living to produce. We must wake up. We must begin to think the way out as an African people. Even though our politicians are not helping matters, but we must begin to think on what to do to have ourselves liberated. We need to revamp African society. The way of doing things must change in Africa. It must change in Africa. We must be investment conscious. We don't need to live to impress anybody. Don't buy a car to impress people or impress your friends. Those things doesn't make sense. Let me tell you, no matter the car you buy, someone have it more. Even if you want to buy, what will you call it? So people have many of them, different colors. You just have one. And you think you're impressing people. It's a waste of time and energy. Live. There's a difference between living and existing. Most of us tend to exist instead of living. Living means to be meaningful, to be impactful, That's what it is to live. We must stop wasting our resources on unnecessary things as an African people. You see, some people in Africa here, some politicians, they have jets. What are you doing with them? What are you doing with them? How many companies do you have? How many people have you employed? What are we doing? What are we living for as an African people? What are we living for? So the way we think must change. The way we see the world must change. Let's think on what we can do. Let's think on what we can produce. Let's go into agriculture. Let's begin to farm. Most of the wealthiest people in the world are farmers. You must understand that. It is a shame that Africa cannot feed themselves. It is a shame. India is 1.4 million people. China is 1.4 point something million people. Yet they are feeding themselves and also exporting to the world globally. So we must begin to think on what to do as an African people. So it must start from our mind. How do we see politics? How do we see economy? How do we see consumption and productions? How do we see things? It must affect us. We must begin to think, reason, think on what to do. It is very important. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you.